Yes, hello everyone, Paul Girash, Cúilín Media. Welcome back to another weekend preview show here on the channel. It's myself, Seamus Brady, joined by Liam White and Aaron Prendergast to look ahead to all of the weekend's action. We have some huge fixtures coming up, which we're going to dive into. But first of all, we have to mention a massive shout out to ATAC Sports. They have officially joined us as our championship partner for our coverage of all four codes championships in 2026. And we are delighted to be working with a brand that share our values and goals. Lads, it's an absolute privilege, isn't it, to be working with this company? And looking forward to diving into this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry.
you go, Liam, you go.
Good start. It's brilliant to be working with them. Their stuff is absolutely top quality. So big shout out to them once again, and everybody make sure to check out their social media pages as well, doing some fantastic work there. Like you said, Seamus, a big weekend ahead. Not as many games as we've had over the previous few weekends, but nonetheless, the games are very, very much up for balance. There's going to be some huge games this weekend in the Ulster Championship, in the Munster Hurling Championship, in the LGFA. So, looking forward to a cracking episode, hopefully. And, looking forward to a good weekend.
Absolutely. So we have updates going on from the Kerry Cork game as well in the under-20s. That one's live on Sport TGK's YouTube channel as well. But Aaron, I mean, we have plenty to look ahead to. We are mentioning there, not as heavy in terms of the amount of hurling games, but in terms of the value, Clare and Limerick. I mean, pound for pound, one of the best games you could get anywhere.
Absolutely, yeah, and especially after what the Munster Hurling Championship has thrown up so far in terms of games and everything else, in terms of what we saw with Cork versus Limerick last week, Waterford versus Tipperary, and even the opening weekend as well. Like, it's been, there really is nothing like the Munster Hurling Championship, in my opinion. I think as much as I'd be more of a football man than a hurling man, really, but I think you have to say that the Munster Hurling Championship, like, there is nothing that compares to it. It's nearly a shame that we get so little of it a year. We get a couple of games and that's it. I don't know if there's something we can do to try and, extend the games a little bit more, because they are absolutely blockbuster. Looking forward to cracking into the games. And as you lads said, delighted to have ATAC Sport come on board. I obviously work with a lot of big athletes as well. So, delighted to be a part of it.
Absolutely. So, and if you are looking for any sports leisure wear or anything like that, any hurls, slippers, footballs, any GAA gear or sports gear in general, check out ATAC Sports' website or across any social media platform. And let's jump straight into the games, lads. We have plenty to discuss, and we're going to start off with that hurling clash. It was mentioned that everybody will have their eyes peeled for the Munster Senior Hurling Championship Round 3 clash of Clare versus Limerick. It's Sunday, 2 p.m. in Port Keysog, and this one is live on RTE. Liam, I mean, as I was mentioning there, in terms of hurling rivalry, this one over the last 5 years especially has absolutely exploded into life. You think of the Munster finals, you think of Tony Kelly's sideline, you think of the awesome performances over the years from the likes of Declan Hannon and Aaron Gallan. What can we expect from this one?
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to this game. Limerick, ironically, have probably been involved in two of the best hurling rivalries over the last number of years against both Clare and Cork. I'm starting to wonder which one would they like beating more? Which one would they hate to lose more against? I suppose it depends which side of Limerick you're probably from. If you're closer to the Clare border, obviously there'll be a bit more of a heated rivalry there. But really looking forward to this game. I love when these two play in Ennis, to be honest with you. I think you always get maybe a better game when it's in the Gaelic grounds, like in terms of quality, but in terms of drama and in terms of like hard hitting and even just the end down behind the goals in Clare as well, with basically the yellow banner. I don't think there's anything like it in the country at the moment, especially, I mean, the limbs when Clare score a goal or score a point, it's one of the best in the country in my opinion. So no, I'm really looking forward to it, because there's a lot of big implications from this game this weekend. You think Clare winning against Waterford on the opening day, Limerick losing to Cork last weekend. If Clare thought that they had any sort of a chance to potentially ruin Limerick's season, then, oh my goodness, I can imagine Brian Lohan is licking his lips for that sort of prospect this weekend. And I only noticed it a couple of days ago when I saw it on online, actually. Limerick have not won a championship match for a while. It only just dawned on me a few days ago.
Five defeats in a row, if you want to count the penalties lost in the Munster final, which is a bizarre stat.
Yeah, like I will count that, because at the end of the day, they still didn't win it. You know, I know it was a draw, but they still lost the game. So I'd be counting that as a defeat. Their last win came in last year's Munster Championship. Ironically, wasn't at the hammering that they gave Cork. You know what I mean? Like that is absolutely insane when you think about it. You know, it's incredible to think that was the last time they won a championship match. But yeah, look, from last weekend, the Limerick Cork game, I thought Limerick, the way that they played in the opening 15, 20 minutes in particular, I was actually worried that it was going to be the exact same outcome again, that Limerick were just going to absolutely hockey Cork out of it. And then Shane Barrett gets the goal at the exact right moment when Cork needed a bit of a boost. We got it at the right moment to bring the game back to 3 points. And all of a sudden, then we got the absolute classic that we've become accustomed to over the last couple of seasons in the Munster Championship and in the All-Ireland series as well. So, yeah, and Limerick going into this weekend, no Aaron Gillan, no Cian Lynch, 2 massive misses. Now, it is Limerick at the end of the day. It's ironic. You're saying, oh no, we have to replace Cian Lynch with Tom Morrissey. Oh no, Aaron Gillan's out. Peter Casey comes in. Do you know, it's ironic to be saying that, but at the same time, you need players like Gillan and Lynch there, because as well as bringing those lads in, it also probably weakens your options on the bench. So how's John Kiely going to be able to cope with that this weekend? Who's going to go centre forward? Is Cathal O'Neill going to be shifted over there, even though he's been playing really well at wing forward? Is Adam English going to drift into the half forward line potentially? Will Will O'Donoghue be taken out of centre back, maybe put into midfield again? You know, there's a lot of options there. So I'm looking forward to seeing, does Tom Morrissey come back in? You know, there's a lot of big options and big choices to be made there by John Kiely for the game this weekend. But in terms of Clare, yeah, look, to score 233 on the opening game of the season, absolutely remarkable. But then they conceded 421. So are Limerick going to have to try and expose that this weekend? So look, it has the makings of another absolute classic. We've become, like you mentioned there, the Tony Kelly sideline in 22, the goal that Gerard Hegarty got in that same final, the goal that he pulled on the ground in 24, you know, just the drama in the Munster final in 2023. Like, there's just been so many incredible games between these two sides over the last couple of years, and I've absolutely no doubt in my mind that we're going to see another one this weekend.
Yeah, man, never really fails to deliver, does it, Aaron? And I mean, one of the key things that Liam was saying there is the context. And when you're looking at the context, the fact that Limerick lost their opening game, the fact that they're without Gillan, without Lynch, the fact that Clare now have been presented with this opportunity, especially in Ennis, to push them closer to the door, that could tee it up to be something else.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and I think the Clare team and the Clare management will be absolutely licking their lips at the opportunity and chance that they have in terms of beating this Limerick team and you know, putting themselves probably 1 foot towards a Munster final. But at the same time, kicking Limerick, you know, further out the door. Look, Limerick might still be able to survive even if they lose this game. It's not a given, but you couldn't have asked for a better opportunity, I think, in terms of Limerick being wounded. As we said, they've lost their last 4 championship games in a row. They're coming into this game, you know, under massive pressure. No Cian Lynch, no Aaron Gillan, maybe some question marks of some other players as well. But at the same time, like, I thought Limerick's performance overall against Cork was brilliant, you know, and I think if they play with that same level that they played against Cork, I do think they'll win this game, to be honest. You know, like, I thought Jeremy Burns in particular was absolutely brilliant. Like, that was vintage Jeremy Burns in terms of like floating ball in on top, catching ball that was coming in, the balls on him as well to go up and take that. You know, 21 free that obviously pops into the goal. I did see some people say that he mishit it, which I do find funny. You know, he was going for free and he mishit it.
I think he did, man. I think, honest to God.
What? But why
would he come all the way up? He could?
I mean, I do think he mishit it, but I don't think he was going for the point. Like, I think he was going for goal.
No, he was going for goal. But I do think he tried to absolutely blast it. And then
I know. Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. But I think in terms of some people saying he was going for a free, I'm a bit like,
oh no.
Yeah, crazy. But yeah, no. Overall, I think I like the way Limerick are playing at the moment. But Clare are very good as well, aren't they? So it's a very hard one to call, lads.
Certainly is. We have plenty of comments coming in. Brendan saying, "Evening, lads. Don't forget this is a Clare team that shipped 4 goals to Waterford, and Limerick, even without Gillan and Lynch, are better than Waterford." Woody says Clare lost this game 2 years ago when they let 2 goals in a matter of minutes, more to do with the defence and the attack, and it's still not solved. Kieran saying, how's the men? Were pretty damn good, especially with the partnership with ATAC. Michael here saying, evening, gents. Ryan giving an update on the score currently between Cork and Kerry. That's in the under-20 game. Peter saying the grain of rice, Gillane and Lynch MIA. Sean saying as well, I think Clare will win this. Limerick missing 2 key players in Lynch and Gillane, and they're at their home, which is another massive advantage. And Peter saying here, Limerick 426, Clare 228. So Peter is going with Limerick to take that. And it is time, guys, for the poll. So we have it here on the screen. The poll is active now. How it works: if you think that Clare are going to win, type number 1 into the live chat and send it in. If you think that Limerick are going to win, type number 2 into the live chat and send it in there. And I'll keep it up on the screen, and we will basically see how it plays out in real time, how you think it is going to go. And then we'll also nail that colours to the mast. No draws, lads. We can't go with any draws this time. We have to give the people a verdict. But yeah, Liam, when we're looking at then the key points, and just when you're talking about the rivalry, one thing I think is really interesting is Limerick and Clare, I think, have something to their rivalry that Cork and Limerick don't, is that I saw on socials a lot of Limerick fans actually turn and start supporting Clare in the All-Ireland final of 2024 when Cork beat Limerick to go through. All of a sudden, loads of Limerick fans were backing backing Clare to win, which was something that I never thought I'd see. I think there's a little bit more proximity between Limerick and Clare, obviously working on the Shannon and everything like that, and they are quite intertwined. Was I think especially the energy that Cork brought with the fans and everything like that, packing out the ground. I think there's definitely something different about that rivalry. They're both different, but they're both class. But yeah, I could never see Limerick supporting Cork the way that they supported Clare in that All-Ireland final, hence why they were backing Clare to win it. But Liam, before we do kind of move on then and give our picks and predictions, where do you think the key parts of this game are? Where do you think the key matchups are, key moments, key periods of the game? Oh.
Sorry about that. I think from a perspective for Limerick, keeping Shane O'Donnell, Tony Kelly and Mark Rodgers quiet is going to be an almighty battle. And for me, look, Tony Kelly, for me, is someone who on his average day is probably going to score 3 or 4 points from play because he's just that good. You know, and in particular, what he did very well the last day was Waterford would get a score and then straight away from an Eibhear Quilligan puck out, it'd be just straight in Tony Kelly's hand and he just shifts it over the bar as if to say, right, we conceded the goal, you know, but big deal, you know, because scoring a goal nowadays, you can rectify that within 50 seconds. You know, you can get 2 points, 3 points on the board already, you know. And Tony Kelly is just really good at responding to, you know, bad moments in his Clare team. So I think trying to keep him limited somewhat. If you could limit him to even 2 points from play, I think you'd be doing very, very well. Shane O'Donnell, for me, is the one that Limerick have to keep quiet. Not even just the fact that he got 4 points against Waterford, but he tore them apart. The way he just goes in for a tackle, he breaks up the ball, the way he wins frees, he goes in low every time when he's, you know, shielding himself with the ball and everything. He's so freakishly strong. If he gets an opportunity at goal or putting the ball over the bar, 9 times out of 10, he's going to take it. So keeping him quiet is going to be absolutely massive. And then not giving Mark Rodgers a free, and not even just a free, but a handy free as well, because he's been very good on them this season. I think he's only missed 1 free in the entirety of the league and championship this year. Like, that's absolutely outstanding. So they're going to have to avoid giving away soft frees. So you're asking, you know, your Will O'Donoghue's, your Dermot Burns, your Kyle Hayes, those types of players, Sean Finns, you're asking them, your Mike Casey's, to just avoid giving away silly fouls, which Limerick have been good at over the last number of years, but they need to be especially on that guard this weekend. But again, you could say the same thing about the Clare defence. They need to fix their full back line because it was very much exposed against Waterford. Stephen Bennett absolutely destroyed their full back line. And like, look, Gillane may be out and Lynch may be out, but Peter Casey and David Reedy himself, Shane O'Brien, if they have a sniff at goal, and particularly the Bull O'Brien, you saw how energized he was last weekend. Even before Kieran Joyce went off, I thought he was starting off very, very strong in the game. And then I did worry when Damien Catlin came on. I was wondering if he's going to be able to keep up with Shane O'Brien. And for me, well, especially in the first half, he wasn't able to. And if Shane O'Brien is in that sort of form again this weekend, then he is going to destroy the Clare full back line. So it's all about the key matchups in terms of who's picking up Shane O'Donnell, who's going to be trying to limit Tony Kelly to as little of an influence as possible, and who's going to stop the Limerick full forward line from exposing the Clare full back line like it was against Waterford. So yeah, no, it's going to be a very interesting contest, I should say. I think we're for a high scoring game once again, as we have become supposedly used to in the month. Like, it's ironic that Cork and Tipperary finished 29 points to 122 and people are still saying it was a poor game. That just shows you where hurling is at the moment. But I would say every game, probably bar that one in the Munster Championship so far, has been a near close to perfection as you can get in terms of quality, entertainment and everything. It's been absolutely brilliant. So yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to this game. I would like to say that Clare and Limerick's rivalry is a bit more heated, but then again, when I was down in Limerick and Clare and Cork were playing that All-Ireland final, whenever I said to people, who are you supporting? They just said neither. I want them both to lose. So I don't think there certainly is no love for either Cork or Clare from a Limerick perspective. But who do I think is going to win this weekend? It's funny, Limerick, they did win that game 2 years ago in Ennis. They shouldn't have. Clare shot themselves in the foot, and Clare did win in the Gaelic grounds last year. And while Limerick do have a very poor record in the championship at the moment, which seems crazy to be saying, I think their duck has to be broken at some point. And I just don't trust. I just worry about the Clare full back line. I'm going to be honest with you. I think Limerick have the players to maybe curtail the likes of Shane O'Donnell or Tony Kelly for a period of time that they need to. But I do wonder about how much the Clare full back line can stop the Limerick full forward line. So I'm actually going to go with Limerick to win this game by 2 points.
Okay. Aaron, I'll throw the same one to you just before I do. Plenty of comments in. Sean with a really good one here saying Clare really got on top of Waterford's puckouts, which is ultimately what won that game. But I can't imagine they'll get the same capability against Limerick. I don't think you're going to dominate Limerick's puckout the way the giants that they have and all the targets that they have around the middle. Brendan saying, I think Casey struggled on his man last weekend. Peter also saying, lads, Bennett is unreal. A man with 2 banjacks tips and a dodgy knee. Yeah, I mean, Stephen Bennett is one of the best hurlers in the country, and his piece with TG Cahir was absolutely fantastic. And just, you didn't really like the amount of pain that the guy is in, and he's just still going out there. And I mean, it is quite amazing when you're thinking about it, because the reality is, at the end of the day, look, do GA players get endorsements and sponsors? Yes, they do. But does he get paid? No, not really. Like, and it's crazy that he's putting his body on the line to that level just for the love of the sport, for the love of his county. And I take my hat off to him. Absolute icon currently in the game right now.
There was a great comment actually by Pat Ryan on the Indo J podcast. He was one, because the same weekend that Bennett got man the match against Clare was Charlie Mitchell getting man the match against Dublin, and he just says, what's the point of training? 2 lads who are just like either not training or they're only just back a week and they're man the matches. Can we just scrap training at this point? I think that was a great comment. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That just sums up the man. He's he's probably barely able to walk after any game he plays nowadays, but by God, he's an absolute warrior. And here's hoping we get to see him still for a little more time anyways before he decides to hang up the boots.
Yeah. It reminds me, just obviously big UFC fan, but it reminds me of when Kamaru Usman was champion at a welterweight division, and he'd be in wheelchairs between fights, like he couldn't walk, and then he'd get in the octagon and all of a sudden he'd be a tank. Like, it just, some people are just able to flip that switch when the competition is on, and all of a sudden Bennett is able to overcome whatever pain he may be experiencing. And Waterford definitely need him to get out of this Munster Championship, especially in the position that they're in with, the draw after 2 games. They need him firing at his best. But yeah, Aaron, throw the same question over to you, and guys, keep voting. If you haven't voted already, throw it into the live chat. Vote 1 or 2 into the live chat for Clare or Limerick to win. Currently, Limerick, 67% of voters have gone for Limerick, 33% for Clare. Liam has also gone for Limerick. Aaron, what's your vote?
Yeah, I'm going for Limerick as well to get the win. I think overall, I know they got beat by Cork, but there was still, even John Coyley, he was so positive after the defeat. I don't think I've seen him be so positive after a loss and kind of big up the team so much. Like the way they picked the park Cork at times in the first half, how well they played. Like I am of the belief if they don't get Cian Lynch sent off, they do win the game as well. I know they're missing Cian Lynch and Aaron Gillan, but look, you saw how well they played when Gillan even wasn't there, and that's against one of the best, probably, if Cork aren't the best team in the country, then Limerick are probably the second best team. And do you know what I mean? Like, so that kind of shows us how good Limerick played without him. So I think they'll do it, to be honest. And Clare have looked a little bit vulnerable in terms of shipping in goals. And as Liam was kind of alluding to there, I could see Shane O'Brien potentially doing a bit of damage up top, Aidan O'Connor as well. So, yeah, I think Limerick will get the job done, and I think they will win the game.
Yeah, do you know what? It's a clean sweep for Limerick. I'm sorry to any Clare fans listening. It's just, when you're talking about why was John Kiley so positive after that defeat, I think for me it's simple. The performance. And you'd be nervous sometimes watching, a game where you won but you played terrible. And I think a lot of people would be aware of that. That's why, for example, Cork actually didn't get as much hype when they beat Tipperary in the first game that maybe Limerick are getting for losing in the second game, because everyone knows, did Cork perform as well as they're capable of against Tip? No. Did Limerick perform very, very well against Cork up until the red card? Did they look like they were going to win the game? Yes, they did. And even then, you mentioned how well Limerick performed up until the red card, or how well they performed without Aaron Gillan. I would say as well how well they hung in the game after the red card. After, when they were down to 14, Diarmaid Byrne's coming up taking the penalty, they just never, ever went away. And right to the bitter end, Cork had them right on their tail. So I do believe that Limerick are in a very, very good place, even though they're without Gillan and even though that they're without Lynch. If you look at Limerick over the last 5-6 years, every All-Ireland that they've won, it seems to be a bit of a trait that they have somebody missing for the year, whether it's Declan Hannon out injured or Cian Lynch out injured. And there's that photo where they did the double up where Cian Lynch was injured the first time and Declan Hannon lifted the cup, and then Declan Hannon was injured, so Cian Lynch lifted it with him the second time. And they tend to be missing key players and just get on with it as well. And one thing as well, Peter saying Caroline Currid is back too. Like, I mean, her track record in terms of being involved in winning setups is unbelievable too. I think Limerick are in a very good position. And I think even though they have to go into Ennis and it's going to be a cauldron, the Munster finals over the last 2 years have shown me that Limerick are able to dig themselves out of these holes. And interestingly enough, whenever Clare have beaten them in the Munster Championship over the last 2 years, it tends to be in Limerick. Like, it's a really weird flip. So, yeah, I think Clare are going to push them really, really hard. And I think it's going to be a really high-scoring game. But I think Limerick will be able to punish the mistakes in the full back line the same way Waterford were. And, yeah, I'm going to go with Limerick to win by a narrow 1-2 points. I'll go Limerick by 2. But I'm not 100% confident. But Porter agrees. He says, yeah, Limerick will just get on with it. Hard to beat. Peter also said, would you agree, lads, Lohan's last dance this year? And we'll finish on that question. Do we think, is this the last roll of the dice for Lohan? Yeah, has that impression come across?
I don't know. Like, it doesn't really seem like there's a huge amount. I mean, there's a few kind of younger players that have come through this season, but like obviously a lot of the older guard, like Tony Kelly and a few others, have been kind of sticking around. It is a hard one to know. Like, I kind of reckon, like, is he? What do you reckon, Liam? Is he hanging on to try to get the Munster title?
I'd say if you were to offer him one of them at the moment, I think it's similar to Armagh in football. I think they've gotten to the stage where, like, yes, they've won that All-Ireland, and as much as that gave them joy, Clare, for me, and Armagh are so similar in that their province, I feel, weirdly probably would give them more joy to win than the actual All-Ireland, just because there's so much pride in those two provinces. But yeah, look, Clare have been gunning to win that Munster Championship for so long, isn't it? The last time they won the Munster wasn't it 1997? Do you know, it's been so long. 1998. Jesus, yeah, that was a great year. I was just remembering who won the All-Ireland that year. Sorry, lads. Sorry, we took it away from you. But no, like that's such a long time ago. And for a team like Clare, and for the teams that they've had, like they've won 2 All-Irelands this century, but they haven't won the Munster title. And you look at the players that they've had, the John Conlons, the Tony Kellys, the Shane O'Donnells, it's absolutely, it's crazy. But then again, they've also just come into a period where you had just absolutely sensational Tipperary teams. You had the greatest Limerick squad of all time. You've had very good Cork panels along the years as well. Even Waterford in 2010, with Milan and all those boys. So they've probably been unfortunate not to win a Munster title, but they've been knocking on that door for years. Obviously, last year was a step backwards, but that 3 in a row that they had with Limerick from 22 to 24 was just absolute hurling at its absolute finest. But I think Lohan would like to bow out, win a Munster title. I'm sure he'd love to win another All Ireland. Of course, he absolutely would. If you offered Clare the All Ireland right now, they're not exactly going to say no to it. But I think they would rather win the Munster title. I think there's just something about them this year that wants to say, let us win that provincial title, and whatever happens after that happens. But do I think it's Lohan's last year? It feels like he still has a lot of energy about him, to be honest with you. But I also at the same time wouldn't be surprised if they win the provincial title this year. I think it's his last year. If not, then I could see him continuing on for maybe another year or two.
Yeah, like the other argument is that maybe he'd just be a Mickey Hart type, like someone who just adores being in management and just will never want to go. Like Mickey Hart was kind of almost Arsene Wenger-esque, that like wasn't as successful in the second spell, but you could tell he just still loved being the manager and being part of the setup and everything like that when he was at Tyrone. I think it's really, really interesting to look at it in that regard, that would they take an All-Ireland or would they take a Munster if you push them to choose? I actually would say that maybe they choose a Munster, and that's absolutely bizarre. But when you consider how successful they've been in terms of having 2 All-Irelands, most players retire, never getting near one. But they will think, if they retire without a Munster medal, I've no doubt they'll think about those Munster finals. They'll think about those 22, 23, 24 Munster finals, and they'll think what could have been.
Yeah,
and yeah, I personally think that they might actually pick a Munster medal, and I think it might be the last dance for the likes of John Conlon and stuff, because I do agree Tipper only getting stronger, Cork looks solid, and Limerick, they don't look like they're going anywhere anytime soon, and Waterford as well have some cracking players coming through, the likes of Cormac Spain and everything like that. So yeah, the landscape is going to get very, very difficult. So with this current crop with Conlon, Kelly, O'Donnell, personally I think this is the best roll of the dice for a while now. But yeah, I'm going to go with Limerick to win by 2 points, and that's where we'll leave it there. Lads, any final things you want to add on before we move on from this game?
All good.
No, I think all good, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we have the vote there. The people have spoken. Clare, 29% have got the votes. 71% of our watchers have said that Limerick are going to take it. Yeah, but interesting enough, Porter asking when Tipperary last won it.
Munster title. Munster title, the last one it was 2016.
2016, yeah. Yeah, probably was, yeah.
Yeah, that was the day they shipped the 7 goals against Waterford. I can remember that day. It was absolutely mental, because I know then Cork won back-to-back in 17 and 18, and then Limerick just went on their mad run, and then Cork won it. So it's been Tip won it in 15 and 16. I know they bet Waterford by 4 points in Thurles, and then the next year they just went to the Gaelic grounds and shipped 7 goals against them. But then I can remember Waterford then had those 2 classics against Kilkenny. I was at the semi-final the first day in Croke Park, and they should have won it that day, only for Wally Walsh to fire in a last-minute goal, and then you had McGrath and Cody going at each other in the semi-final, which was absolute. That was like, actually, ironically, it was like looking at Pardew against Wenger back in 2006 when they were going at each other in the Prem. But no, for Tip, it's a long time as well, but it's nothing compared to Clare's.
Yeah, I do agree as well when you're talking about Clare's era and everything like that. On top of that, Waterford were league champions and everything like that in 2022, and they were hot favourites going in to be Limerick's front runner for the All-Ireland. The standard has been ridiculous. Like, it's been absolutely insane. But yeah, we're going to move on. So we've said Limerick to beat Clare in round 3. And yeah, Now, the only other game that we have from the small ball action is the clash in the Senior Camogie Championship Semi Final, and that is Kerry taking on Waterford Monday at 2 p.m. in Fitzgerald Stadium. Lads, I think the story of this one is without question the story is Kerry being up in the Senior Camogie Championship, because they've come a long way. And you think of the performances over the last years, the likes of Patrice Diggin, they have been absolutely phenomenal. Getting up to the Senior Camogie Championship, they're competing this weekend, this Monday, the bank holiday Monday at 2 p.m. in Killarney. They're going up against one of the best sides in the country, though, Liam.
Yeah, they absolutely are. Look, it's brilliant for them, but unfortunately, I think we're going to be seeing the second weekend in a row that Waterford beat Kerry on their home turf, to be honest with you. Although I feel like last weekend's one wasn't as clear-cut, whereas I feel like this weekend's one probably is. But listen, it's still great for Kerry to get to test themselves against a team of Waterford standards. Like, look, I watched Kerry a couple of times last year, obviously, as they were in the intermediate final against us, and they were in the semi-final before that, etc. They are a very good team. They have a lot of really, really talented players, and they are making great strides in the code. There's no doubt about that. But Waterford, for me, are just a completely different kettle of fish altogether. I mean, Waterford are a team that I wouldn't be surprised if they did win an All-Ireland this year. Do you know, I think they're a team that are good enough to potentially do that. Like when you've players in your team like Niamh Rockett and Beth Carton, I mean, that's just naming two players. You know, Lorraine Bray for me is one of the most underrated players in the country, as well as Corbett Barry as well, a fullback. I think is a really, really solid player too. So I just think Waterford are just going to have too much quality from that perspective. Like Kerry are probably relying on a few players like Diggins, to be honest with you, to probably get them out of trouble. Whereas I just think Waterford have a spread of scores all across the pitch. So I don't expect Waterford to have too many issues this weekend, but it is still great for Kerry to test themselves against a team of this caliber. But yeah, I think Waterford should be expected to win this game on Monday. I will say as well, what's your thoughts on, because I know there's under 20 matches on Monday as well in the Leinster Championship, there's probably other games as well, but what's your thoughts on games taking place on a bank holiday Monday?
I don't like it.
Yeah,
I think if I was one of the girls playing, I'd be fuming.
Very harsh.
You want to go out and enjoy your bank holiday weekend, and then you've got a game on Monday at 2:00.
Yeah.
Stealing your bank holiday away from you almost. Can you not just put that game on a Saturday and then let us go, you know, have a few drinks on the Saturday night or enjoy the bank holiday and everything like that? I know that that's not their top priority, but yeah, I would open it if I was a player. But it's an unbelievable sign of just how much Kerry Camogie has progressed, that they're going up against one of the best sides in the country in Waterford. But I do agree with you, Liam. I think that they're going to be coming up against the likes of Beth Carton and especially Niamh Rockett, who you could argue right now Niamh Rockett is probably the best inside forward in the country right now. The form that she's in. She's in absolutely ridiculous form. And with the funniest comment of the pod so far, Peter saying Niamh Rockett will be full of beans, brackets, she's a bachelor's ambassador. She is. They actually have managed to become the official beans sponsor or supplier, I think, of the GA or everything like that. And I didn't even know that was a bracket. So that's almost like a fun fact of the week. But yeah, very, very good, Peter. Brendan here saying the Kerry girls, regardless of the outcome, will learn a lot by playing the best teams. It certainly will. Peter saying Daisha by 10 or 12. Porter saying would love to see Waterford win an All-Ireland Camogie. Yeah, no, I'd love to see it as well, just for the players like Beth Carton and Niamh Rockett and Lorraine Bray, Keely Corbett Barry, Vicky Falconer, like that have been on the road with this team for a long time. But yeah, I'm going to go for Waterford to win. But I actually think that the likes of Patrice Diggin and everything like that for Kerry, I think that they'll put up a good show. But I think just the power that Waterford have up front will be too much. Aaron, are you agreeing?
Yeah, I think so. Like, look, I think it's great exposure for Kerry, to be fair, to play a team of the quality of Waterford. And I think it'd be great for Kerry Camogie to, you know, kind of reach up to that level and kind of keep progressing and everything else. Like, they had a solid enough campaign in Division 2A, winning five matches and finishing top of that division. So look, who knows? They will be carrying a bit of momentum, a bit of form kind of going into it. You know, if the championship has taught us anything so far, is that games aren't a given, and a lot of games we've expected to be one-sided haven't quite turned out that way. So if Waterford aren't fully at it, then who knows? Maybe Kerry could make a bit of a game out of it. But I think, as you lads said, like, the quality of Waterford is far too strong. You're talking about one of the All-Ireland contenders, if not the favourites even. I think Waterford should win it, and it should be fairly comfortable, but you would still expect Kerry to give it a good go.
What's interesting for me about this one is the fact that Cork clearly are not at the races right now, and there's a question of like, will they recover in time for the championship, and if not, then who's the favourite? Like, that's the interesting thing. Darry saying here, what do you make of the Louth Limerick team? Do you reckon it's accurate? I actually haven't seen it. Lads, have you seen it? Liam, have you?
Nothing yet, no.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. I've been looking on socials. I haven't seen it released by anyone that looks official. So I'd take it with an absolute mountain of salt if you got it from a fan page or something like that. But I'd be interested to know. And the other thing as well is with GA, even when the teams come out, you can't be 100% sure that that's how they're going to line out. We're going to move on now to the game that me and Aaron are going to be watching with a lot of interest this weekend. Switching over from the small ball to the big ball, Gaelic football action is up next, and we have the clash of the Leinster champions Louth against the team that held the crown all the way back until 2010 was the last time that they didn't have it. Louth versus Dublin, Saturday at 7 p.m. in O'Moore Park, Portlaoise. This one is live on GAA+. Do you want an absolutely crazy stat, lads? This will be the first time since 2002 that Dublin will meet the Leinster champions in the Leinster Championship. Somehow, in the other years that they weren't Leinster champions, they always avoided them. In 2011, we avoided Meath and so on. So this is actually the first time since the year that I was born, the year that you were born, Liam, sorry. It's the first time since the year that you were born that Dublin are meeting the Leinster champions in the Leinster Championship. Aaron, what do we make of that?
Yeah, it's just absolutely mental, isn't it? And like it'd be there's some amount of stats kind of going into this weekend. Like, that's obviously one of them. Another one is that Louth haven't beaten Dublin in the championship since 1973. Another one is that, the last time Dublin went 2 consecutive seasons without winning the Leinster Championship was 2004, obviously, and when they lost to Westmeath. So yeah, it is crazy how much the dynamic has shifted in Leinster football. For years we were talking about disbanding the Leinster Football Championship, splitting Dublin in 2, 3. Some people even said 4, which was absolutely mental.
Parkinson said 4. I remember after the Leinster final in 2020, he said it should have been North Dublin, East Dublin, West Dublin, and South Dublin.
Yeah, it's crazy. No, yeah, like it's crazy, really, isn't it? Like, and it kind of, in some ways, like, obviously I'm not glad that it's over, but in some ways I feel like that Dublin team now is getting the proper respect it deserves. People are now properly looking back and saying, oh yeah, they were one of the greatest teams of all time. It wasn't just, we don't want to go too much down a rabbit hole. Obviously there was things involved like funding and everything else that helped kind of grow that, but at the same time, all Irelands are one on the pitch. Coaches coach on the side of the pitch. Do you know what I mean? Like all these things have to come together. But look, in terms of this game, it is going to be a very, very fascinating game. I'm going to be there in Portlaoise, so obviously hugely looking forward to it and everything else. I think it's an interesting one. It's a really strange one, because before Dublin played Wicklow and Louth played Wexford, I was very confident that Louth would win this game fairly comfortably. Dublin were pretty poor. Like, let's not get away from it against Wicklow. They were very poor against Wicklow, and Louth were absolutely brilliant versus Wexford. Yeah, for some reason, whether it's pure delusion or just completely blind optimism, I have a funny feeling Dublin might put in a performance here. Now, I do still think Louth will win the game, but I just wouldn't be surprised if Dublin put in a top-class performance, really stepped it up. Like, everyone's writing them off, and there is this common trend lately of teams being written off, and maybe Ger Brennan has a screensaver on his phone of what the Louth supporters are saying or something like that nature, and we won't get to see it now because we won't see him. So I don't know, maybe Dean Rock has something maybe cooking up kind of behind the scenes. But yeah, look, overall, Louth are coming in a better place. There's no getting away from it. I know they've been playing at a lower division in the league, but they have been a lot more solid. Their team is far more settled, even if it is Gavin Devlin's season. The newer players they've introduced, like Ty McDonald, Darren McDonald, Paul Matthews as well, I think have all been absolutely brilliant and obviously complemented what is a very strong side in terms of the likes of Sam Mulroy and obviously Tommy Dernan and a few others. Like the Dublin team actually did get announced, and like looking at it there, Con O'Callaghan has been named to start, which I think is very interesting. He went off injured at halftime versus Wicklow, so will be very interesting to see if he does actually start come Saturday evening. Paddy Small, look, he was brilliant the last day. He was our best forward, our best player on the pitch. So we're going to obviously need a big performance from him. Another interesting one, though, as well, is the goalkeeper. So for the second game in a row, Evan Comerford's been named to start for Dublin. Now, I think a lot of Dublin fans would have probably rathered Hugh O'Sullivan to be the starting goalkeeper. Comerford did make a few errors against Wicklow as well. And look, I want to back the lad. I want him to do well. Obviously, I want Dublin to do well. So 100% I'll be behind him and everything else. But probably would have gone for Hugh O'Sullivan there, in my opinion. I think he would have been a better option. He had the better league. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting in terms of how this game goes. But with it being in Portlaoise, no Ger Brennan, you would have to say that Louth are favourites.
They are favourites, but there's the question of going into the game. You were talking about, like Peter here saying Dubs look very ropey the last day. Ger gone, Louth in better form. Do we meant to prevail by 2? Sorry, lads. Porter saying so are Louth favourites. You'd have to say so, but the reality is the favourites tag doesn't mean shit. And everybody knows that the favourites tag can often be a bit of a hindrance. And the reality is, on top of that, how you got to the dance does not matter. Doesn't matter if you came here looking fantastic, you've absolutely destroyed everybody in your path, or that you crept through. Perfect example, Kerry in 2009, when they looked so bad that everyone was convinced that Dublin were going to annihilate them in the quarterfinal. And guess what happened? The reality is that Louth will be aware of that too. And I've no doubt that Gavin Devlin will be saying everybody's talking us up, this and that. He's going to try and snuff that out and try and put into their mindset that kind of underdog mentality that Louth used so well to their effect, to put it up to Dublin when nobody thought it was possible, to beat Meath when Meath were favourites. Everything like that, I think they're going to try and put that mentality back in. The next question that I have is just for you, Liam. Lots of people have been mentioning in the comments about Ger Brennan and the Ger Brennan factor. Even though he won't be on the sideline, will that still be hanging over the game? Will Louth use that as motivation? Because he left on good terms. I've worked at Dublin Louth, like Dublin Louth met in the under-20 championship, for example. I was working at it and I was talking to people in the Louth back. There doesn't seem to be any ill will towards Ger Brennan, but maybe it's the type of thing that maybe you can turn the dial up a little bit if you want to get the motivations flowing for a game like this. Also, before Liam, I hand it over to you, we have here as well another poll. Dublin or Louth to win this game? Same situation as with Clare and Limerick before. If you think that Louth are going to win, type 1 and throw it into the live chat. If you think Dublin are going to win, type 2 and throw it into the live chat. Liam, the Ger Brennan factor, is it worth taking note of?
Like you did say there that they did leave on good terms. That is true. They absolutely did, and I won't deny that. However, I think Louth would certainly love to rub it into him to beat him this weekend. Even with the suspension and everything like that, even though a manager does leave on good terms, when they do return to you, there is just something inside you. And it's weird. Like you could be the bestest of friends with the man and, I don't know, you could be married to his daughter or something. You could be family with him or anything like that. But when it comes around to it, you want to beat them. You want to prove a point, So I can imagine in the back of the Louth lads' heads, they're thinking, look, absolutely nothing bad to say about the man. He gave us great memories last year. He's given us a Leinster medal, which we'll always treasure and everything like that, especially the likes of Sam Mulroy, who's given so much to, Louth football over the years. But at the same time, they're just going to be thinking, how nice would it be to beat our old manager? That would just be a sweet feeling for them. But look, the suspension, I think, will affect it a small bit. Like, you still don't have, as much as Dean Rock, I can imagine, will still be fine on the sideline at the weekend. You're still without your main figure there. So, like, you even saw it the other night with Bayern Munich, with Vincent Kompany up in the stands. Although you're thinking, well, he's coached them all week, surely there's not going to be that much of an issue. You can still tell that there is, because I feel at times you then compare to Simeone on the sideline, who, by the way, hate him. at the moment. Never want to see him after next Tuesday night again. But it's infectious, the energy that they have on the sideline. It's infectious on the players. It's infectious on the crowd. Do you know what I mean? I feel like Dublin will be missing some of that this weekend with Ger Brennan not there. I don't know, Aaron, was it noticeable against Wicklow that Ger Brennan wasn't there? Was there a bit of lack of energy, maybe to a degree, with him without him on the sideline? Or
it's kind of hard to know, really, because like it just felt like Dublin were going through the motions, really. Like, I felt like when Wicklow started switching things up, and like they were winning the midfield battle, and it was very, very evident that we're far more physical in around midfield. And it wasn't until like the final 20 minutes where Dean Rock switched it up and brought Patrick Cuffwick-Byrne on. Obviously, yeah, I'm sure Ger Brennan would have had a live feed to that game somewhere, wherever he was, so he would have been able to get the message through to Dean Rock or whatever it was. It was very visible that Dean Rock did have an earpiece on, and everything else. So there was definitely some form of communication going towards Dean Rock and everything. But yeah, it's a hard one to know, really. Like the fact he's not being able to attend training as well is a little bit unusual. I did see a few Twitter rumors about that during the week as well. So it's a little bit of a mad one. To be honest, kind of everything that's going on there. But yeah, like I do agree as well. I think the Louth players, and especially the fans, I think as well, like they definitely will stoke the fire going into this. And look, you have to use all the motivation that you can get. Look, Louth probably don't need motivation. Maybe it's Dublin that need the motivation more, to be honest. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll be, as I said, I'll be watching this from a golf course over in Portugal, so I'll be tuning in, and
you might see Ger Brennan on that golf course.
Even tactics together.
Maybe it was all in the plan. Who knows? But I'll be tuning in, and if Dublin lose, I think my mood will be kind of altered. Sorry, I feel a little bit annoyed if Dublin have lost. But Rory here saying Brian Fenton is the reason Dublin's midfield is weak. The loss of him was huge. I mean, he's arguably, I think there's an argument along with Clifford that Brian Fenton, him and Clifford could be the top two footballers of all time. Michael here saying Dublin won't get away with the incipient performance against Wicklow. They need to turn it up because I'm worried the league form wasn't a fluke. And Peter saying Aaron Ger could be on the terrace with you. You might put in a word for him. I interviewed back in the day for Play on GAA when it was called that, before I switched the name to on Clare. And like, he is an absolute gentleman. He was very, very kind to me at the time, came on, gave me his time. So I'm delighted that he got the Dublin manager's job. And I think he was the perfect candidate. So maybe, who knows, maybe we could try and get him on again one day. But I suppose it's time to start nailing our colours to the mast, lads. I'll throw it to you first, Liam, because you have no horse in this race. What are you thinking?
Yeah, look, I think Dublin, I think they're right. Dublin can't exactly perform like they did against Wicklow this time, and they have to prove that the league form was just a fluke, to be honest with you, because if they don't, then not only will this damage their confidence going forward, but you would wonder how long will it be then before they can get back on the high horse and win a Leinster title again. Because look, for as much as people enjoyed the Westmeath Meath game and seen Meath bet, Meath will come back next year. They'll be pissed off after losing that game against Westmeath. They'll be annoyed of losing last year. They're going to want to come back again next year and win a Leinster title. If Louth could win the title this year, win back to back, it just, and the core of players they've coming through at minor level and under 20 level as well. Like, they have serious players coming through at the moment, along with the experienced players are still currently kicking it for them. Then it could be a long road back for Dublin to win a Leinster title. So I feel like they need to try and as well as that, listen, they lost the Leinster title last year. Now look, maybe as years gone by, they maybe took it for granted, and it's understandable. They'd won it 14, 15 years in a row. It's understandable that you get complacent after a while and everything like that. But it's funny, I feel like it's the same with if Kilkenny were to be beaten this year in Leinster. You take it for granted, but then when it's taken away from you, you're like, do you know, it's no different to Man United win the Premier League for how many years, and then when they don't win it for a couple of years, you're like, oh, right, I don't like this feeling, do you know? So I think Dublin will be better this weekend than what they were against Wicklow. I mean, for me, they have to be. They can't be any worse. If they perform like they did against Wicklow, this game could be over at halftime. like genuinely with the way Louth are playing at the moment. I don't think it will be. I think Dublin are going to put up a close fight against them. And with Con potentially their name down to start, like you said, is a big boost to them. But I just think Louth at the moment are playing some serious stuff. And Sam Mulroy, Conor Grimes, Conor Early, McDonald, like that. These guys are just on form. Craig Lennon. I mean, Craig Lennon's getting 4 points a game at the moment from wingback. He's just been absolutely sensational all season. I'm going to go with Louth to win this game by, I'm going to say 6 points.
Louth to win by 6. That's the first one in. And as you can see there by the poll, Aaron, Louth have 75% of the vote. Dublin only 25% saying there. Then on top of that, we have a question in here from Gavin. A very good one here. And Aaron, I'll show this one to you first. If we lose, who would we like next round? You kind of hinted at it there, that even when you were saying a good performance, was it a case that we'll go down swinging? Or do you think we can beat them?
No, I'm going to say Louth win it by a narrow 1 point. I think it could potentially go to extra time. I do think we are going to put in a performance here. I do agree with what Liam said as well. Like if we play anything like what we played against Wicklow, like Louth will wipe the floor with us. But like there is pressure on Louth, weirdly. You know, there's a lot of expectancy on them. They haven't beaten us since 1973. It does feel like all the kind of, they have all the cards kind of going into this a little bit. And I think we just will raise our levels and raise our performance, and as much as maybe we don't have the same level of opposition, we still have players who know how to play in these big games in terms of Noel Scully, in terms of Brian Howard, Kieran Kilkenny. You've got Cormac Costello on the bench, you've got Luke Breathnach back. Like, if you can just get these players back to their best, I think we would be surprised the levels that this Dublin team could actually reach, in my opinion. I still think with a lot of the squad and players that we have that we could be all-Ireland contenders. But a lot of our players just look absolutely miles off it. And then as well as that, we have injuries. And then obviously the younger players that have come through just haven't really kind of hit the ground just yet, if we're being honest. So, yeah, I think at this present moment, you'd have to back Louth. So, yeah, I'll go with them by a point. And to answer Gavin's question as well, like, I don't know. I think if I have to be honest, like I don't know if there's a team there that I'd fancy us to beat. Like I don't know if we could draw Kildare or Westmeath. I don't even know if you can draw a Leinster team. I feel like maybe that's
in there already. Remember the pot that was supposed to be the one that was going to be quote unquote the less difficult one, and then you've already got Donegal in there. You got Mayo in there.
Maybe Cork, but. I don't know. I think Cork would be licking their lips at playing us, like in Páirc Uí Chaoimh or Páirc Uí Rinn as well.
It would depend where that game is, but I think people tend to run really, really quickly when it comes then to the big teams kind of turning around. That people tend to then run a little bit too far in terms of how far we've fallen. We were still in Division 1 for a reason. And we still won a couple of games in Division 1 for a reason. We still beat Roscommon in Roscommon. We still beat Monaghan. Like, do you know what I mean? We're not as far off as people think we are. And it's one of the points that I was making in the live podcast, in the live studio. I think this is playing right into Dublin's hands. That all the talk is that Dublin are not only going to lose, but they're going to get swept. That Louth are going to absolutely push them to the side here. So Dublin almost going into this game but they certainly don't have anywhere near the same amount to lose as they did this time last year when they lost to Meath. Like when they lost, it was like, oh my God, Dublin are out of the Leinster Championship. It won't be the same reaction this time if Louth turn us over. But personally, I'm looking at it going, if we get our best team on the pitch, if we start Peadar O'Cofaigh-Byrne, put him in midfield, we start our big forwards like Conor O'Callaghan, and if he's fit enough to go the distance, if we can get some minutes into our key inside forwards like Costello and get them playing to the championship standard that we've seen of them over the past few years, I still think we've enough in the tank to win this game. I don't see us particularly in the same league as, would be scared to say Donegal now after their flat start to the championship. But at the start of the year, I wouldn't have put us necessarily forward as a team that I think are going to win the All-Ireland or be in the discussion, because I think there has to be a rebuilding phase because of the amount of players that have retired in the last 2 or 3 years. But I still think we've enough to win this Leinster Championship. And I think what Liam is talking about, the fact that we've lost it, I think will make us want to reclaim it. And I think, like, you're looking at that going, I think if we had won the Leinster Championship last year, I think this would have been a very, very likely one where we slip up. But I think we've got that underdog mentality now. And I'm going to go with the Dubs. I really, really am. I'm going to go with the Dubs. Smash and grab in O'Moore Park, 2-point win. That's what I'm going with. I'm sticking with what I went with in the live studio. I'm not going to back down just yet. As I said, doesn't matter how you got to this stage. The evidence is there that if Louth beat us and beat us comfortably, we can look at the previous game and go, well, could have seen that coming. But I personally think we've seen enough evidence over the last 2 years that it doesn't matter how good you looked in your last game. It's how good you looked in the one that you played today. And the reality is, I personally think these provincial championships have taught us one thing as well: expect the unexpected. And I think Dublin are going to turn up, and I think we're going to win. That's what I'm going with. Brendan saying surely Dublin can't continue being Mick McCarthy quote. Very good. They're saying Dublin 218, Louth 16 points. Michael is saying Dublin by 7. Sean is saying Dublin 20 points, Louth 121. Ryan saying Louth by 2, late Samuel Roy 2-pointer. Sean saying the new system means there's zero reason to win a provincial final if you get to one. No benefit in Louth beating Kildare in the Leinster final. Would love Dublin and Killarney in a few weeks. Oh, what a game that would be. That could be a trip down the country, Aaron. And that's the game that we could get. Rory saying, don't worry, lads, nobody else will achieve what Dublin has. I would agree. Gavin saying Monaghan actually, if they get to the Ulster final, wouldn't be too bad for Dublin. Ryan saying as well, lads, what did you make of the Tailteann Cup draw? I mean, initial thoughts on that. We'll keep it brief, obviously, with an eye on the clock. We're about to tick into an hour. But Liam, I'll give you this one. What did you make of it?
I hate it, to be honest with you. Look, whoever Offaly was going to get, it was going to be tough. Let's be honest about it. Like, look, I still support the footballers, absolutely, and I want them to do well, and I don't want our season to be cut short. You know, I don't want us to be out after the next 2 games. But given the season we've had already in the league, considering the performance that went down against Laois, I mean, what summed up the Laois game for me was I was over at Arsenal Bournemouth, and I thought Arsenal played bad that day. I rang my father in London. I said, how bad were Offaly? He said Arsenal were better. That tells you how bad Offaly were against Laois. You know, like, it was just a really poor performance. So the lads don't seem like they have a lot of confidence at the moment. I'm hoping to God that just changes next weekend against Clare. But you're going up against a Clare side who put up a decent battle against Kerry in the Munster Championship, against a Clare side who've played in Munster finals over the last couple of years, a Clare side that were probably unlucky not to get promoted from Division 3 last season. So, look, it's going to be very, very tough next weekend. Regardless if we win or lose, I think our next game as well is going to be as equally as tough, to be honest with you. I just hope to God, even if we lose, I just want a bit of pride back into the Offaly jersey, because I feel like the last few performances haven't been quite to the standard that the lads have sort of set themselves over the last couple of years. But yeah, look, we'll see what happens anyways. I'll support them and I'll wish them the absolute best, but it's going to be a very difficult game. And while I'm here as well, I want to wish the best of luck to Killian Burke, who's making his AFL debut this weekend as well. The best of luck to him. He's had his injuries since he's gone over to Australia, but the best of luck to him this weekend.
Absolutely, well said. Rory asking there, are there any good underage players coming through in Dublin? One player looks class for the minors right now is Raftery. He looks absolutely unbelievable. And definitely, if you haven't seen any of the clips of him, he looks absolutely fantastic. He scored a goal, I think, in the first play of the game against Offaly, I think, was it? In Parnell. Could be wrong. But literally from the throw in, he caught it and went the whole way and just blasted it into it. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Yes.
Mo Salami as well looks brilliant.
Type of score that you get where you're like Callum O'Dwyer, Mo Salami here. He's absolutely unbelievable. But yeah, the poll has been finished. 75% of you have voted for Louth to win this game and progress to the Leinster final. 25% of you have gone with the Dubs. And we're going to move on now to the other Leinster semi-final. And again, we'll get a poll up for you here real quick, but I'm going to throw it to you, Liam, first to sell this one. Kildare against Westmeath, Sunday at 2 p.m. in O'Connor Park, Tullamore, live on GAA+. What are you expecting from this one? Kildare, obviously, the news hitting about Luke Loughlin's injury as well. There's rumours. I seen Peter threw it in the comments a little bit earlier that maybe there's rumours that he might play some part, but if his injury is as bad as it looks, there's no way he's playing any part in this one. And that's, I think, probably the player who would have had the biggest impact on this game ruled out. How much does that change this game?
Well, Luke Loughlin is just simply not playing. I'm sorry. That injury that he has, there's absolutely no way in hell that he's going to be playing this weekend. He's not going to play for... Westmeath could get to the All-Ireland final. He's not going to feature in it. You know, it's a very bad injury that he has. Listen, he's a very strong guy. He's a strong personality. If he was to recover from it in the best sort of fashion, then absolutely fair play to him. But I don't like the sound of it.
I saw his tweet. Yeah, I saw his tweet. Sports Show put up a post with his tweet in it.
Yeah.
And you're like,
unless
he's trolling.
He ain't.
You know that WWE clip where he's sitting in the wheelchair and he takes the blanket off and it's a fake leg?
Yeah. Yeah, Seth Rollins did something like that recently as well at SummerSlam last summer. That shows how much of a geek I am. Jesus, I don't even watch wrestling anymore and I still know what happens there. But look, I that's a huge miss for Westmeath. Absolutely monumental. Look, Westmeath are a team that won the game against Meath on merit, and it wasn't just because of Luke Loughlin, but he is one of the finest forwards in the country. For me, Luke Loughlin starts for every team in the country, without a doubt. I think he starts for Kerry. I think he starts for Donegal. I think he starts for Dublin, for Louth. I think he starts for everybody, to be honest with you. I think he's one of the best footballers that we've seen in a very, very long time. And he is sort of the glue in that forward line for Westmeath. But albeit, he'll probably admit it himself, he hasn't been firing on all cylinders throughout the season so far. But at the same time, when it comes to this time of the year and the type of game that this is, you need all your best players available and you need the best player available. And unfortunately for Westmeath this weekend, they won't have him. But listen, Westmeath still got 4 goals the last day against Meath the last day, and Luke didn't get any one of them. Do you know, like, it's still going to be a very tough task for Kildare to beat this Westmeath side. And I think Mark McHugh will certainly have a plan. I can imagine Mark McHugh probably knew from 2 weeks ago that Luke was probably not going to play this game, realistically. Whether he knew he was going to be out for the season, I don't know. But I have a feeling the way he was taken off against Meath, he thought, if I get through this, I probably won't have him for the semi-final. Or he certainly won't be starting anyway. So he'd have come up with a plan in the last 2 weeks anyway. And listen, whoever comes in for him has a big job on their hands. There's no doubt about it. But I do like the way Westmeath are moving at the moment. I like the way that they've gotten 9 goals in 2 games against Longford and Meath, which is very, very impressive going. Like, in years gone by, they've struggled in Pearse Park. And I mean, okay, well, at the moment, they seem to love playing Meath in dramatic fashion and beating them, and they're probably not expected in the Leinster Championship. But I still think there's a lot to give in this Westmeath team. You look at the players that they have. Matthew Whitaker and Ronan Wallace, for me, is a very, very solid wing-back partnership. You've Shane Corcoran, Sam McCartan, you've Brandon Kelly, you've Breon Cooney. You've a lot of really talented players in that Westmeath team who I feel can Ray Kennellan, I should say. Ray Kennellan. God.
It's not an hour 15 minute man, come on.
But no, there's a lot of really talented players in this Westmeath team. And also just the way Kildare have been this season, even against Laois, they weren't firing on all cylinders in that game. And they've not been firing on all cylinders. I would arguably say since the night against us in the league, they haven't been firing on all cylinders, to be honest with you. They've been very, very poor throughout the league campaign. They bet Laois in the second half, but were they at their best? To me, I don't think they were. And the game is in Tullamore as well. Westmeath did win in Tullamore recently, so they're used to this ground now. It is a neutral venue. Look, Kildare be desperate to get themselves to a provincial final, and especially in an era now where Dublin aren't as strong as they used to be. I can imagine Kildare would love to try and win themselves a Leinster Championship at this stage. But I actually think, even with Luke Loughlin being out, I actually think Westmeath might still just shade this game. I think they're coming into it in better form. I think Mark McHugh is doing a really, really good job with them. He's a good backroom team as well. And yeah, I have a feeling that they're just going to shade this game narrowly by maybe 2 or 3 points in the end. I think it's going to be an absolute cracker of a game. I could see it being something like a 220 to 120 or something like that. And Westmeath just winning it coming down the home stretch. But yeah, I just don't think Kildare at the moment are in the best reign of form. And I think Westmeath are going to get themselves into a first provincial final in 10 years.
Absolutely. Well, Peter here is saying, can't see us beating Westmeath. They're in good form. Our defence is not hectic. Laois were fair bad. And then on top of that, guys, get your votes in. You already know how the deal works. Throw 1 into the live chat if you think Kildare are going to take it, and throw 2 into the live chat if you think Westmeath are going to take it. Aaron, what are you expecting from this one?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting game, to be fair. I think your dog is trying to avoid your voice.
Dog's trying to vote. I don't know which one he's trying to go for, but
absolutely, yeah.
I have 2 dogs and they both backed. Is that a sign for Westmeath? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's a sign of things to come. Yeah, no, I still back Westmeath to come through this game. I know the Luke Loughlin injury is absolutely huge. There's no getting away from it. And I seen on his Instagram actually as well. He said it's a tendon rupture, so like he's definitely not going to be playing. Like it'd be a big miss for his club in the club season as well. Like I think hopefully he comes back for the start of the league, because it is actually like next year, because it is quite a significantly bad injury. But look, I think for Westmeath, I think, considering how well they played, even though against Meath, and some of the younger players that have come in, like I think Shane Corcoran looks an absolute baller. Like I don't know if you lads seen some of the highlights on the Sunday game of the game versus Meath, like the goal he puts in the top corner, the dummy solo point as well. Like this lad looks, kind of had a shade of Daniel Flynn about him, in terms of how he was playing a little bit. Brandon Kelly looks a very good player as well. So yeah, I think Westmeath have done a lot of good body of work at underage level. Mark McHugh has them really well set up as well. They've scored 9 goals in their last 2 games. Kildare's defence has looked very leaky as well. So I could see Westmeath doing the business in terms of goals. And I think goals could be absolutely huge here. And I think Kildare are vulnerable. They absolutely are. And I think if they get dragged into a fight in this game, I still think Westmeath will come through. Look, maybe the injury of Luke Loughlin might cost Westmeath winning Leinster, but I don't know if it will cost them in terms of this game. I still think they have a bit more firepower. And yeah, there does seem to be vulnerabilities around this Kildare team at the moment. Look, maybe they might stand up and prove a lot of people wrong this weekend, but yeah, I think Westmeath are going to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that line that you said about Luke Loughlin's absence might cost them Leinster, but it won't cost them this game. I agree with that. I think they've got enough, I think, to get through this game. And I don't think Kildare are quite at full tilt. But that being said, like you would be nervous to write them off, because I think a lot of people tipped Laois to beat Kildare, and then Kildare went got the job done, and they did win the Tolson Cup last year. And for me, it's a lot of bit of thing. Again, Killian here saying after the last 2 weeks, expect the unexpected. We could see Kildare go out and absolutely tear it up. Like you just wouldn't know. Personally, if you're asking me real quick, gun to the head, make your mind up, Westmeath. That's personally who I think is going to win this game. So I'll be backing them. But again, not confidently, because of just the drama that we've witnessed in the Provincial Championships. And I agree with you, Aaron. Westmeath have definitely unearthed some huge players. Plus the re-addition of the likes of Ray Cannell, and they have that tie to the 2015 team that beat Meath last time. And then they've got other experienced players in there like Ronan Wallace and stuff. So my thing with it is, I think they do have enough in the tank to get through this. And I don't know, maybe if Luke Loughlin's gone, maybe jump on the phone to John Hesman or something and see if he fancies a Michael Murphy-esque crack at it or something, or a winning the Leinster title, or Ronan O'Toole or something like that. Brendan here saying you'd be back in Westmeath, but there's been shocks galore already, so wouldn't necessarily write off the Lilywhites just yet. Liam, a couple of questions for you. Do Tullamore GAA still open for parking? And then Peter was also asking earlier on for pub recommendations. I forgot to start.
Well, since I've worked there, I feel like the Bridge House, I have to probably give them a mention, and for their carvery on a Sunday as well, I have to probably mention them. Kelly's, just literally across from O'Connor Park, or across the bridge, is a good pub to go to. Dygan's as well, just down a few. Actually, to be honest with you, there's that many pubs near O'Connor Park down the street. The Warehouse as well, Shane Lowry's place, is there's probably more pubs than sense in Tullamore, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, a few good pubs around there. Tullamore GA do parking outside O'Brien Park. You probably want to get there early enough, because it does get fairly packed fairly quickly. But they do parking on match days, and they do a great job with it, to be fair to them. And it's always the lads around there are always fair sound, to be fair to them. So yeah, get there early enough. And in terms of the pubs, listen, take your pick. There's plenty to go around, and the pints are great, as I've experienced many a times before, and will so many more times in the future. Hopefully after Offaly demolish Kilkenny next week. Okay, I'm going too far. Yeah.
Do you see those memes about the pints of Guinness, where it's like the screen recording of someone sending a WhatsApp voice note, and he's like,
Yeah.
maybe do that, just see which pub responds. But yeah, how telling is that, lads? The votes are in. We're going to close this poll now. 50% of the respondents went for Kildare to win, and 50% of the respondents went for Westmeath to win. Completely undecided. I mean, that game is going to be seriously tough to call. But we are going to move on now. Dylan here saying, a little unrelated, I was at the Munster under-20 football final tonight. Kerry won their 5th in a row over Cork, 3-14 to 20 points. Cork were unlucky in the end. Yeah, that's a fantastic achievement for Kerry. Fantastic achievement for Tyrone as well, winning the Ulster under-20 championship again. And yeah, thanks for throwing that in, Dylan. Was there any player in particular that stood out? Anyone who maybe hit the back of the net or anything? A lot of talk about the likes of Tomas Kennedy and everything like that, but who really caught your eye? We'd love to hear it. And we're going to move on from the Leinster Championship, though, up to Ulster, and a team who shook up the championship last weekend by beating and dumping Donegal out of the championship was County Down. They now go up against Armagh in Clonus. This one will take place on Sunday at 4 p.m. It is live on RTE. I started a few comments earlier. There was a lot coming in about this one. We have here Kieran saying, can't see Down replicating their performance against Donegal, especially with the quick turnaround. While Rory saying, I think Down are going to cause another upset, lads. This one is going to be very, very hard to call. And I'm going to get another poll up right this moment. But starting off, Aaron, Armagh against Down. After Down shook up the world against Donegal last weekend, Armagh are up next. What do you see happening this time?
Yeah, and look, Armagh will need to be careful, because if they're not on it in this game, like Down will take them as well. And look, it is a short turnaround and everything else. Like Armagh were obviously playing as well against Fermanagh. Probably the day before. Obviously a little bit different in terms of intensity levels that Armagh needed to be at, whereas Down probably needed to be at their absolute best, even though they actually won the game fairly comfortably in the end. So it will be a short turnaround and everything else. It will be tough for Down to find those same levels. I don't think Armagh will make the same mistakes and errors that Donegal made. Like Donegal, without question, underestimated Down. There's no getting away from it. They definitely weren't at their best. Their shooting levels were off. Down were able to cut through them time and time again defensively. So I think Armagh will be a lot more wary of what Down are about. And for example, a lot of people wrote Down off going in against Donegal. A lot of people were saying, I got a lot of stick for saying it was going to be a 5-point win for Donegal. Like a lot of people told me it was going to be 10 plus and everything else. Whereas this time around, nobody's saying that. Like everyone's giving Down their credit and everything else. So McGeaney and the Armagh management team, like they're definitely going to have a plan for this Down team. But it's going to be interesting to see how they do stop them, because Armagh do have injuries. They're very light in around the middle at the moment. That's one of Down's strengths in terms of Oran Murdoch. So you could see Down kind of winning the battle there as well. It's a hard one to know with Armagh, because against Fermanagh, the game was over at half time and there was a lot of space for the Armagh or for the Fermanagh forwards. Like Darren McGurn, sensational display. There's not a lot you could do about how good his kicking was in terms of anything different he could do defensively, but in terms of some of the goal opportunities they gave away, that would be a little bit of a concern. Because especially when you have a player like Daniel Guinness racing forward as brilliant as he's been, and Pat Haver and a few others as well. So I could see Down and Armagh really going back and forth. It's interesting because Armagh haven't been at their best, in my opinion, in the Ulster Championship so far. You feel like if they're not at their best this weekend, Down can beat them. But, I backed Armagh to start this Ulster Championship. I am going to stick with it. I still think they have another gear, another level to go up on. I just don't think they'll make the same mistakes that Down made last week. And even mentally as well for Down, to get that win versus Donegal, to have a week turnaround. It is such a short turnaround time between, beating a big dog. they're a brilliant team, and fair play to them. I hope they, look, I have family from Westmeath, so maybe I shouldn't say this, but I would rather maybe them end up in the Tailteann Cup. Look, I'd love to see Westmeath do it as well, and then maybe Port Cavan can get dragged into the Tailteann Cup. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't think Armagh will make the same mistakes.
Do you know what? It reminds me a little bit of what happened with the Dublin Hurlers last year, in that we won a game that nobody expected us to win against Limerick. And that meant that then going up against Cork the next day out, they knew exactly how good we were. And they absolutely didn't allow us to get into the game. And I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen this time. But what I am saying is there was definitely a little bit of overconfidence from the Donegal side towards Down. I think that they thought they were going to win that game before it began. And Armagh now have got the warning shot that the Donegal side that they have, absolutely had war with for the last few years in the Ulster finals and their clashes outside of Ulster and everything like that. And they lost them in the Ulster final last year after extra time. That Donegal side has just been beaten by this Down team. So they'll be well aware of what they're going up against. However, one thing that a lot of Armagh fans agree with, and one thing that I've seen as well as Armagh don't tend to do things straightforward. So Armagh could know exactly what they're walking into and still walk into it. I really wouldn't put it past it. I think this game is going to be close, regardless of the fact that Down have announced themselves. I think they've announced themselves and they are here. And we've a fantastic question, which I will fire to you, Liam, in just a second. But I'm going to read the comments because they're coming thick and fast for this. First of all, Gavin is right here. Ross coming on for a treble. Gonna get a mention. Absolutely so. Of course, I'm assuming that's about the Provincial Under-20 Championships. Brendan saying, you were saying about Roscommon needing to lay down a marker. I think Down are in the same boat, especially with their status in the All-Ireland series at stake. Killian saying, my wife is a Down supporter and I'm an Armagh one. Bit tense in the household this week, which she may find her own way down to the match. But Sean saying, as an Armagh supporter via Family Links, I'm very nervous for this game. Armagh have quite a few injuries, especially in the midfield, whereas Down will have a lot of confidence going into this game. Peter says Armagh 220, Down 120. And Sean also saying Down will need to be at their best, not just to get into Ulster, but also to avoid dropping out of the Sam Maguire unfairly, in my opinion. This question is for you, Liam. It is absolutely a brilliant one from Brendan. Is Down playing to stay in the All-Ireland series motivation enough to push them on to victory?
I think it's a factor, 100%. But even going back to a point that was made earlier in the comments, I can't remember exactly who said it, but they were like saying there's no use to winning, say, a provincial title now because of the way you go into the All-Ireland series. I think for me, it goes back to the arguments even in other sports as well. You could even look at the Premier League at the moment when, again, I don't want to be using Arsenal, but for years, finishing fourth was seen as success. But when you finish your career, who's going to be asking you, oh, how many times did you finish fourth? Nobody. Yeah. Nobody at the end of their career is going to be looking back and thinking, oh, look how many times I played in the qualifiers. Look how many times we played in round 1A or round 1B of the losers round or whatever. Yeah. Winning a provincial title, that's what you tell your kids about, your children about, your grandkids, uncles, your fathers, you have a medal.
That's what goes in the history books. That's exactly what goes in the history.
Like Louth last season, right, when I went to the All-Ireland series, of course they'd have been disappointed to a degree the way they went out to Donegal and lost to Monaghan and lost to Down, etc. But at the end of the day, Sam Mulroy and some of those lads can end their when they retire and when they're in old age, they can show grandchildren, I have a Leinster medal. I don't care what happened before that. I don't even care what happened
in a few weeks.
Literally, exactly. Like I have a medal that I can show you here instead of just saying I played a couple of games in the Sam Maguire or something like that. For me, look, is it a factor? I think it absolutely is. But I think Conor Lafferty and his downside to be thinking, no, do you know what? We have an opportunity here to win an Ulster title. And especially if they were to take down Donegal and Armagh, going up against...
You have to consider them as All-Ireland contenders then.
Well, you'd certainly fancy them to beat either Derry or Monaghan, which we'll get on to in a moment, but you'd fancy them then to beat one of them in the final. Do you know what I mean? So, Down for me should be going into this game. Look, obviously maintaining their All-Ireland status will be crucial because I can't imagine they want to go back into the Tailteann Cup, considering they've already won it. And I feel like I think they're a team that are probably too good to be in the Tailteann Cup at this stage. I think it would be fair to say. I think they are a Sam Maguire team. There's no doubt about it. But for me, I think their motivation is simply, we want to win an Ulster title. We want to get to an Ulster fight. There's nothing quite like, I think the two best things we probably have to offer at the moment in terms of provincials is the Ulster Football Championship and the Munster Hurling Championship. And for me, Down, I can imagine would absolutely love nothing more than to win an Ulster title once again. It's been a while, and I can imagine they would love nothing more than to take that back home with them. And if they were to take down Donegal and Armagh back to back, and then to go beat, I would probably say, look, spoiler alert already for the next game, but probably Derry in the final. Like, that would just be one of the best. That would probably be one of the best provincial championship victories of all time. Because look at the quality of teams that you're taking down. So, look, it's absolutely a factor. But for me, I think Conor Laverty's looking at taking, I want to win an Ulster title. And that would cement this Down team as, like you said, potentially as well then, potential All-Ireland contenders.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to look at the teams that they've beaten, because if they beat two teams that everybody puts forward as All-Ireland contenders, then why couldn't Down be? And everybody watching, we've a healthy number watching. It's time to have your say. You know how it works. Throw number 1 into the live chat if you think that Armagh are going to win. Type number 2 into the live chat if you think that Down are going to win. We'd love to see your votes. We'd love to see who you think is going to win. If you fancy yourself as an expert even more, let's see the score predictions as well. But yeah, it's quite it's going to be some game. When you consider as well where Conor Laverty picked Down up at. Remember the time where Eugene Brannigan, I think it was, he'd just been named Club Footballer of the Year, and he came out and he said he'd never play for Down and stuff. How quickly Down have turned the ship around, winning the Tailteann Cup and now competing seriously in the Ulster Championship. Personally, at the very beginning of the year, I said that Armagh would win the Ulster Championship. And as much as I love an underdog story and the miracle of Down beating Donegal, I can't see them beating Armagh. Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I agree. I think Armagh will have too much firepower. Look, I think it'll be close though. Like, I do fancy it will go to extra time. And I think it'll be nip and tuck. I do agree with what you said earlier. Like, Armagh don't do things easy. Like, even, the game was won against Fermanagh, but Fermanagh scored 120 against them in the second half. Like, it's very unusual for that to happen. From Armagh, like against Tyrone, they were very flat as well. But I think overall they should still have a little bit more than Down at this moment. And again, I think they'll be ready for what Down have to offer, whereas Donegal just weren't. Donegal definitely underestimated them. There's no getting away from it. And as good as Down are, at this moment, they are still a young side. And maybe in a couple of years it will change. But at this moment, I still think Armagh are better than them, and I think they'll do it.
Could we see Rian O'Neill?
I don't know. We keep saying that every week, but I don't know. It's just going to be...
The longer it goes on, the more it's like, well, then don't bother bringing him back.
Yeah.
Well, he's not bringing him back now. He's playing with the club.
I think it was last year. It was the Ulster final where he was in the squad. He didn't play, but he was in the squad. And then it was in the All-Ireland series. He came back. So be interesting to see if similar happens. If Armagh gets to an Ulster final, will similar happen again? Yeah, it's going to be one of them where he's just going to be there. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to believe the rumors and everything else. He's just going to be there, or he's not going to be there. Do you know?
I'll believe it when I see it with him, to be honest.
Yeah.
When he turns up. So I'm going for Armagh. I still think, yeah, they'll have enough in terms of the firepower that they have up front still with the likes of Turbot. But I think one of the areas that Down could definitely get them is their power around the middle, spearheaded by Murdoch and the powerful running from the likes of Daniel Guinness. But yeah, I still think Armagh will have enough. Liam, is it a sweep on Armagh?
I'm going all the way, lads. I think we're getting a penalty shootout. But I think Armagh are finally going to win a penalty shootout.
Now that's a bold prediction.
I can see this game being a 2-24 to 1-27, something like that. I think we're in for an absolute cracker. Goes to extra time, maybe a last-minute 2-pointer from Murdoch to level it. And yeah, I've probably cursed him now, and I'll probably never be invited anywhere again by Jarlath O'Byrne, to be honest with you, for anything. But yeah, I think Armagh are going to win this game on penalties. I think they're finally going to do what England did in 2018 and break their hoodoo. So, sorry, if Killian the football genius is listening, I do apologize if I've jinxed you. I do apologize sincerely.
Okay, so we've picked that Armagh will be in the Ulster final, but who will they be against? And so have ye watching that have voted in. 86% of you have gone for Armagh to win, 14% have gone for Down. So it's a confident vote for an Armagh victory, but who will they meet in the Ulster final should they get there? That will be decided on Saturday at 5 p.m. Derry versus Monaghan. Interestingly, this one is in the Athletic Grounds. It's live on GAA+. Liam, I'll go to you for this one first. Derry and Monaghan, two teams that had kind of odd league campaigns. Derry had a flat start and then looked absolutely fabulous then for the rest of it. Monaghan had a very flat league campaign, but have since bounced back with a pretty impressive win to open their Ulster Championship against Cavan. So kind of hard to know where both sides are at.
Yeah, it is rather strange. Monaghan, I thought were going to get bet by Cavan, just given how their league campaign went. And I've been a massive fan of this Monaghan team all season. I mean, Jesus, I predict them to finish 4th in the league, which, you know, I look like I have egg on my face now after saying that, to be honest with you. But yeah, and then they come out against Cavan and they kind of steamrolled them, to be honest with you, judging by, you know, reports and everything like that. So yeah, it's a funny one. But look, Derry, I think in my opinion, are coming into us in much better form. They bet Antrim, I still think, rather comprehensively the previous round. You know, it wasn't vintage Derry or anything like that, but they got the job done. That's all they had to do, really, to be honest with you. I think Derry are going into this game this weekend as favourites. I don't think we're going to get as close a game between Derry and Monaghan as we are in Armagh Down, in my opinion. But I still think it'll be a good game of football. Like, I could see Derry possibly not playing at their absolute best, but still having enough to get over Monaghan. Like, to be honest with you, Sean O'Malley's kind of type of score there, to be honest with you. Like a 225 to 120 to me sounds sort of right, to be honest with you, in that Monaghan don't get blown away, but Derry still have enough to kind of comfortably win this game. You know, you look at the players that they have, the Cassidys, McGuigans, Conor Glass, you know, they have some serious talent in their team. And Monaghan, as good as their win was against Cavan themselves have not been exactly firing on all cylinders so far this season. So yeah, I think Derry should reach the final this weekend. Look, if Monaghan got there, and geez, if we got a Down Monaghan Ulster final, that would be absolutely terrific, to be honest with you. Just for the Ulster Championship in general, you get two teams who at the start of the season a lot of people wouldn't have predicted. I think it'll be fabulous, but I think Derry are just coming into this in better form, and yeah, I expect it to be an Armagh Derry Ulster final come a couple of weeks time.
I agree. I think that Derry have shown a little bit more consistency. Obviously, since their flat start, they've looked a little bit more solid, and they still have all the building blocks. Well, without obviously McKay, who's a huge one, but they have most of the building blocks of that side that won Division 1 and won the back-to-back Ulster titles. And I think under Kieran Meena, that was the last time that I've seen that Derry team look like that Derry team. I think under Mickey Hart, there was like, you just went on a roller coaster then that went off the track very quickly. But Kieran Meena had them singing from a good hymn sheet up until their All-Ireland semi-final defeat to Kerry in 2023. I think now he's back at the helm. I think they're moving quite well, and I think Derry are going to win this one. Aaron, what are you expecting?
Yeah, I agree as well. I think Derry have more than Monaghan at this moment. Look, Monaghan to rack up 27 points against Cavan was impressive, considering they were probably averaging around 14 to 15 points per game in the league. Obviously playing a lower level of opposition in terms of Cavan than, you know, the Division 1 teams and everything else. But all 6 of their starting forwards scored, like Micheál Bannigan, Stephen O'Hanlon were all very good, Stephen Mooney as well. So there will be positives to take there from a Monaghan perspective. They'll be going into this with less pressure, I think, on them going into this than, you know, maybe even the Cavan game to a certain extent. But I think Derry are just a different level, you know, and I think they, you know, quietly, a lot of people are talking about Armagh Down. Like, Derry would have looked at Donegal getting knocked out and they would be thinking happy days. And it's interesting, Derry are the only team left in the Ulster Football Championship that have won and Ulster this turn of the decade. They also have the only manager who's won an Ulster Football Championship as a manager left as well. In terms of their manager, who somehow has gone out of my head, Kiramina. Yeah, there we go. We're an hour and a half. I was like, how has he gone out of my head there? I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I think Derry overall will have a bit more than Monaghan at this moment. So yeah, I'll go with Derry by 5.
Absolutely. Well, we're expecting an Armagh versus Derry Ulster final from this weekend's fixtures. Apologies, and that brings us on to our final code. We have the LGFA action taking place this weekend, and we have a provincial final. But I have to add in the caveat that Connacht is just 2 teams. Louth were in it last year due to being in the senior championship. They got relegated down to the intermediate championship, so it's just Galway and Mayo. So this game just serves as a Connacht final. Galway versus Mayo, Sunday at 3 p.m. This one is in Park Sean McDermott, and it is live on TG Cahir. Galway, of course, reaching the Division 1 final. They lost to Cork. I personally probably would have fancied them to win that one, just the form that they were in last year, the players that they have, the All-Ireland winners there in the club scene with Kilkerran and Clonberne. I personally would have backed Galway to win that one. Cork just have been fantastic in this league campaign. They've really, really turned up. And you looked at the players that they were missing, like Hannah Looney, Erica O'Shea, and you're thinking, there's no way, surely, that they can keep this up. And they have been. They've been absolutely brilliant. But Galway going into this Connacht Championship, Liam, I'll come to you for this one. What are you expecting from this? Obviously, Mayo had an okay campaign in Division 2, but ultimately didn't get out of the division. Galway, on the other hand, reaching the Division 1 final. However, the one thing we've been shown in football so far this year is you cannot, but just expect the unexpected, really.
Expect the unexpected, but I don't expect it to be another sort of shock this weekend, to be honest with you, in terms of this game. I think Galway at the moment are one of the strongest teams in the country, and they proved that in the league campaign. Like you said, probably will feel regret over not winning the league, to be honest with you, but you do look at the players that they have and the form that a lot of these players are still in. Leanne Cohen, Olivia Divily, Kate Slevin, Aoife O'Rourke, Andrea Trill. They have some absolutely savage players in their team. Roisin Leonard as well, just to name a couple of those players, like Nicola Ward. They're just a team that is stacked with absolute talent. And yeah, they've had the hold on Mayo over the last couple of years. Galway are a team that'll be aiming to win the All-Ireland this year. There's no doubt about it. And yeah, like you said, it is just a standalone fixture in the Connacht Championship, which is a bit unfortunate, but it's just the way it is at the moment. I can't see anything but a Galway win, to be honest with you. I just don't think Mayo are up to the level of Galway, to be honest with you. And I think if Galway can get their forwards firing on all cylinders, then this could be a game that Galway have wrapped up by possibly the 45th minute or something, and they could take their foot off the gas for the final 15. So yeah, I think Galway should win this game rather comfortably and win the Connacht title.
Yeah, I would agree. I back Galway to win this one. I think Mayo might give them a good fight, especially considering the rivalry between the two counties, but I have to go with Galway. Aaron, is it a sweep?
Yeah, I think so. I think Galway should have a bit more firepower. They probably are further ahead than this Mayo team at this moment. So yeah, I go with Galway by 5.
And I'll come straight back to you for this one. Our County Dublin facing off against Kildare in round 2 of the Leinster Football Championship. It's in Parnell Park on Sunday at 2 p.m. And the key thing is to take into mind here is Kildare last week went away to Meath in Summerhill and beat them. So Kildare are off and running for the championship. Dublin are coming into this game off the back of being relegated from Division 1 along with their opponents. So could Kildare pull off another huge upset? And if they do, it's an incredible achievement if they beat both Meath and Dublin away from home in the group stages.
Yeah, well, they'll certainly feel like they don't have a better chance, really, probably at beating Dublin. Dublin look a bit wounded at the moment, being relegated. Kildare coming in full of confidence and everything else, as you said, after that, big victory versus Meath. And Kildare will be thinking, can they put a bit of momentum together? Can they maybe go and even win the Leinster Championship? If they can go and topple Dublin. I do think Dublin, though, in the Championship will be different to what we saw in the league. And we saw Carla Rowe kind of come back towards the end of the league. Michelle Davern, obviously, Jodie Egan, both in very good form as well. So I think we'll do it. I think in Parnell Park, I think we will raise the levels and everything else. I think throughout the league we were experimenting. We've obviously lost a lot of players, most notably Hannah Tyrrell, before the retiring and everything else at the end of last year. So we have had to try different things out. I think we'll be closer to our best team in this game versus Kildare, and I'm going to back us to do it as well. And again, maybe a little bit what we said with Armagh versus Down. Armagh saw what Down were able to do versus Donegal, where with this Dublin side, we're able to see what Kildare were able to do versus Meath. And I think we'll be a lot more prepared and ready for that. So yeah, I'm going to say we do it by 3.
Kildare have been coming for a while though. Like, they've been on the horizon, and I feel like we kind of have no excuse to not know what's coming with them. Personally, I'm going to say it's a draw. I think it's going to be one of those games where Kildare take a big step closer to us and look like maybe they might be about to turn us over, and then maybe Carla Rowe will snatch an equaliser or something. That's just the image that's coming to my head when I'm thinking about this game. Parnell Park is a very, very difficult place to go. I've seen in the club championships as well that home comforts with this are huge. The clubs that tend to be more used to playing in Parnell Park tend to have a massive leg up, and that's been the same for the Dublin Hurlers. That's been the same for the LGFA team as well down through the years. It's very hard to go to Parnell Park and beat Dublin there. And personally, I think Kildare will come very close, especially with the momentum that they have of beating me last week. But I think Dublin will save themselves and get a draw. That's what I'm going with. Liam, what are you thinking?
I can see Dublin. I feel like I kind of agree with what you're saying, Seamus. I think Kildare will put up a huge battle against Dublin, and they'll probably be getting themselves a small bit closer as time goes on. It was a great win for them last week against Meath, but it is always difficult to try and back up one big win with another one the following week, and especially being away from home again. Dublin, sort of similar last year when they drew away to Waterford on a day that Waterford probably should have won that. I could see that sort of thing happening again, only this time I could see Dublin getting over the line. So I think Kildare are on the right track. I think they're making the right moves, but I'm going to give Dublin the benefit of having home advantage this weekend, even though it meant nothing to Meath last week against Kildare. I'm going to say Dublin to win by 2 points.
Very good. Aaron, I'm going to come to you next for this one. Donegal hosting Tyrone Sunday at 2 p.m. in Lifford. This one is live on TG Car. This one will be a big game. Donegal off to a flat start against Armagh. They didn't perform anywhere near the levels that they did in the league, whereas Tyrone in the league also were below par, failing to get out of Division 2. So two sides that need a big performance and a big result in round 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to be fair, it's one of them that definitely has a potential upset or a potential shock on the cards. The way Tyrone or the way kind of both of these two have been playing a little bit, there is the opportunity there. Definitely was surprised by Tyrone in the league. Definitely maybe not up to the levels that we would have expected. Donegal a little bit flat, obviously at times with the defeat to Cavan as well. So yeah, you could easily see a Tyrone win here. Do you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go for Tyrone. I'm going to say Tyrone win it.
Liam, what are you thinking?
I was going to go Donegal, but Aaron's kind of enticing me here with that Tyrone prediction.
I'm going Donegal, so it's on you.
Can I sit on the fence? No, I can't sit on the fence.
We're deep into delusional time now, by the way. We're nearly a half hour over.
Do you know what? I'm joining Aaron. Sorry, Seamus. Tyrone's going to win.
All right. Tyrone to win. This one is what the boys are saying. I've been overruled. Liam, I'll go back to you then for round 2 of the Munster LGFA Championship. We have Tipperary hosting Kerry Sunday at 2 p.m. This one is in Clonmel. Obviously, Tip started off their campaign going away to Cork, the league champions, and beating them. So they've absolutely hit the ground running. And now Kerry, the 2024 All-Ireland champions, are next up in Clonmel. Meanwhile, Cork, the league champions, host Waterford, one of our favourites to go and win the All-Ireland. This one is in Porky Rin. I'm pairing these two together because I think it's fascinating to look at the fact that Cork are on the back foot and Kerry are on the back foot. And you wouldn't have said that a few years ago. The way that Waterford and Tip have progressed is absolutely sensational. We've picked Waterford to be one of our front runners for the All-Ireland, and I think the victory over Kerry in the Munster Championship last weekend backed it up. That the fact that they go away to Austin Stack Park and beat the Kingdom is sensational. Waterford versus Cork and Tip versus Kerry. What are you expecting?
Well, first of all, I think Kerry must be delighted to not be playing at home this weekend. My God, they must really hate playing at home this year. The losing all, wasn't it? They lost all their league games at home, and then they went and lost to Waterford at home. And we did reference it last week. I did say that Waterford will win this because I just don't trust, as much as I think Waterford will win. I think I have predicted Waterford to win the All Ireland this year, but just Kerry's home record this year has been shocking. And I don't know what's gone wrong, to be honest with you. They're much better away from home. Away from home, they're fantastic. They're absolutely brilliant. They bet Dublin on the first day of the league. And look, people can look into that as well. And I agree with what Aaron was saying. Dublin were experimenting during the league. And I remember that day. It was an absolutely horrific day to be playing Gaelic football. I remember watching on TG Cahar and I felt sorry for the players. Jesus, it was like a mud bath half the time, to be honest with you. It was a horrific day to be playing football. But Kerry still went there and they looked decent. They put 4 goals past Meath away from home. Like, they've been on the road. They're sensational. But at home, they just can't crack the code. But they are going away to a Tipperary team who, like you said, had a brilliant win over Cork last weekend. You had Clara English and Sarah English both getting 3 points each. You had Nora Martin, who was absolutely fantastic at centre-back. You know, Anna Carey and Emma Marcy as well in the full forward line, who did really well as well. So I think this is going to be a very close match, to be honest with Tipperary. Have been making some really good strides over the last couple of years. But I think Kerry, when they're on the back foot, they're going to need to put in a big response this weekend. There's no doubt about it. I think we could be in for a game that goes right down to the wire. And just because it's away, if this was in Kerry, I'd actually be predicting Tipperary to win it. But because it's away from home and their away record this year has been better than their home record, I'm going to edge it to Kerry by 3 points. But I wouldn't be shocked if Tipperary did win this game.
Yeah, I'm going to go for actually a double away win. I'm going to go for Kerry and Waterford. I don't know if that is just taking it straight from your book, Liam, but I do fancy Kerry to bounce back, and then just really, really like the look of Waterford this year. Aaron, What are you going with?
Yeah, I agree as well. Like, I think Cork showed their vulnerabilities against Tipperary the last time out, so I think they are there for the taking. And I can see Waterford catching them out and beating them. And then I think Kerry should still be too strong for Tipperary. They obviously need the victory as well. So yeah, I'll go for the Kerry and Waterford double.
My only thing is I'm like, I can't see Cork being like, we can't lose 2 home games in a row.
Yeah.
Kick off the province. I actually, weirdly enough, I feel like if one of them's going to go, I'd pick the Cork one to go the way that we haven't picked it to go. Do you know what? I'll go for a draw, Cork Waterford draw, and then Kerry to beat Tip. That's what I'm going with. But yeah. And just before I wrap the show up, guys, a stat here from Kevin Moore. He's saying, or Kev Moore, he says, interesting stats. Tipperary have not beaten Clare and Thurles since the round robin began. Cork have not beaten Clare since the round robin began. Limerick have only won once in Ennis since the round robin began. And Peter saying, lads, great preview episode. Thanks a million. Have a great bank holiday weekend. Enjoy the games and catch you back here Sunday at 8 p.m. Well said, Peter. That is the weekend preview show here on Cúilín Media. It's been an absolute pleasure again, as always. Thanks to Liam and to Aaron for joining me for another great show. And yeah, we will be back on Sunday at 8 p.m. for the weekend review show, as always, where we break down and review all of the weekend's action. Until then, we will see you all there. Agus Torah.
Follow your instinct, baby. Follow your instinct.